Welcome everyone to the SoxProspects.com podcast, the web's number one source for information on the Boston Red Sox from top to bottom, from Fort Myers to Worcester, across the Pike to Fenway, and all stops in between. Thank you all for listening. My name is Chris Hatfield, and I am the executive editor of SoxProspects.com, and I'm joined as always by our director of scouting, Ian Kundle. Ian, it's good to see you in one piece, dry back home after I think you had to row yourself home from Portland this past weekend.
I think the pitchers on the mound in the ninth inning had needed boats to get off the mound too, with how much it was raining, but they kept going.
Apparently,
which we'll talk about a little later when we talk about the relievers. But yeah, it was crazy rain this weekend. Obviously, the Mets Red Sox game on Friday night and got suspended because of it. It was probably the hardest rain I've ever seen driving home. Like 93 was legit flooded, which was wild.
Yeah, 93 is not a roadway I think of as one that floods.
No, it was a very interesting experience driving on the highway in that. But made it back up to Portland, saw a no-hitter.
You said it's like the sixth one you've seen or some nonsense?
I played in a couple in high school, and then
That's wild.
I've seen 3 in the minors. One of them was in Salem, or no, was not in Salem, but it was with Salem. Back in the day, Miguel Gonzalez. Remember, it was like,
oh yeah, the Rule 5 guy.
Yeah, it was against Frederick
During his rehab, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
I believe so. Yeah, he was old. He was like 24 or 5.
Yeah, he was older because when he eventually got on. Which, by the way, Rule 5 pick.
Oh yeah, we probably have to talk about that also.
Well, no, but I was going to say but for everyone who's like, there's this loophole. They're the only team that's ever done this. Like Miguel Gonzalez spent most of his Rule 5 time on the 60 or the 90-day IL or 60-day IL.
There's no 90.
I was thinking 90
IL,
days. It's 60-day IL.
Yeah, no, guys get drafted and
it happens.
Yeah, it happens all the time. I mean, whatever. We'll talk about song. I guess we have to, but yeah.
More words spent on a older reliever who hadn't touched a ball in 3 years and is sitting low 90s than well, whatever. It is what it is. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, well, we're glad you're back in one piece. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk trade deadline. We're going to talk some MLB moves. We're going to talk draft signings. What's the latest on that? The draft signing deadline is on Tuesday at 5 p.m. And we are recording this beforehand. My guess is most of you are going to listen to this afterhand. But we pretty much know what's probably going to happen. If anything happens differently, we'll talk about it next episode, but we needed to record this one tonight. So yeah, not a ton else going on there. We'll talk about Ian seeing Portland, and talk about some other quick, international signing news, Noah Song, etc. But first, of course,
we don't just talk about Tristan Casas for the next 30 minutes discussing his bat flip or not even a bat flip, his admiration of his home run off Max Scherzer, the second one where Devers looked like a little kid. That was awesome. It was a great moment. Fenway was electric when that happened. But
I think it's actually, if I can, I'm not sub commenting anyone when I say this in particular. It's because there are a lot of people doing this. I think there are more people dunking on people who wanted to give up on Casas than there were people who wanted to give up on Casas.
Oh, I disagree. I think there were a lot of people.
You think it was that
based
bad?
On my Twitter mentions and going on other podcasts and hearing what their people were saying.
I guess that's fair.
No,
I guess that's
there
fair.
were a lot of people who were very out on him, and I never got it because he was he's a rookie learning the ropes. You're always going to slow start. And I think it got compounded though because his defense was bad, and that was the issue. Is the defense was noticeable, and when you're not playing good defense, you better be hitting. And if you're not hitting and you're not playing good defense in Boston, that's a bad combo, as we've seen with some other members of the Red Sox this year. Mm-hmm. So I think that kind of was what caught up with him, and now he's literally been a top 5 hitter in baseball in July, and he's got a higher OPS than Pete Alonso and a bunch of other very noticeable.
He's up
players.
Into the top 60 in baseball, isn't he?
Yeah, he's over 800 now. Yeah. The Red Sox, the top 6 hitters when they put their best lineup out, all have an OPS over 800 right now. Not even the Braves say that, which is crazy when you think about it, because the Braves lineup's insane. But it just shows how good the Red Sox offense is and why, spoiler alert, we think they should buy at the deadline. But I don't know why I did that weird voice there. That was weird. But anyway, we'll roll with it. It was. I was trying to do an announcer voice, but I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, it didn't work. We'll move.
Would have just rolled past it if you hadn't called attention to it. But it's fine.
I felt self-conscious about it.
Anyway, if you don't feel self-conscious about the show, you can support us in a few ways. You can rate and review us on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is that you listen. You can go tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell the person in the car next to you as you float down 93. And you can support us on patreon.com/SoxProspects or SoxProspects.com/donate. The Sox Prospects annual donation drive is close to over. We would like to get over where I think our goal is 9,000, Ian, and we are very close to it. I should probably have this up somewhere.
Than 10% left, I think.
Less than 10% left. We're more than 90% of the way to our goal, and you can help us get there. Again, SoxProspects.com/donate or join us on Patreon.com/SoxProspects. So, hit us up there. Your support is always welcome on those outlets. And of course, send us your emails, podcast@SoxProspects.com. We want to talk about what you all want to hear about. Ian, let's knock out first the draft signings thing, because I think it's pretty quick and simple, and then we can get into the deeper dive on
it's pretty straightforward, I think.
Yeah.
Shocking. Everyone signed, basically.
Everyone, I mean, I could have told you exactly. We could have told you who was
knew this was going to happen. Yeah. I will say,
go ahead.
Teal's bonus was less than I expected. I did not think
let's back up. So everyone from days 1 and 2 has signed, but compensation pick Justin Reamer. We'll talk about more about that in a minute. Kyle Teal signed for $4 million flat, $660,000 under slot.
Which is crazy, because when you look, like, he was projected to go in the top 10 and he got a bonus that was like, what, 20th or something, 19th.
Was it that low? Really?
I don't know. I
guess he's guessing. 14th. Yeah.
Because 14 is 4.6. So let's look. I'll bring up Draft Tracker. The slotted bonus for the first round pick 19 is 3.88 million. So pick 18, 4.02. I was close.
Okay.
But fair. I mean, I think though that kind of reinforces what we talked about. I think maybe not with Jim, but a couple, like, maybe our initial reaction podcast, that I don't think he must have not had a landing spot anytime.
And he was going to keep falling, because this is he's a Boris guy.
He's a Boris guy. Boris isn't going to he's not doing the Red Sox any favors with that bonus. So that to me says that Boris and they knew he wasn't going to get picked until maybe around 20 or something. And they were like, yeah, fine. 4 million. We'll take it.
Yep. Exactly.
So that's how you get him for 4 million, which I think is obviously a great piece of business.
Yeah, and in the meantime, a lot of that savings went to Nazan Zanatello in the second round and Antonio Anderson in the third. Zanatello got almost double his slot value. He got $3 million to sign. The slot value to shade below 1.7 million. So
sorry to cut in, but I just think it's interesting and worth remembering with Zanatello's bonus context wise. That's more than they gave Roman Anthony. That's more than it's
more than they gave anyone last year at all.
They really believe in this kid.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a fascinating one to watch, because obviously he's got his fans. Like, there were several pretty big prominent draft writers who had him as in the top 30 35 picks. Then some others had him in the 50s 60s. So that's the difference in the bonus right there. He got drafted in the 60s or 50s, but he got a bonus
like 28 was, essentially
28th or something. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see who ends up kind of coming out right with that one.
Mm-hmm. And then Antonio Anderson in the third got 1.5 million when he had a slot that was a shade below 850K. So he got almost twice his slot value as well.
Yeah, he got the money of pick like 49 or 55. Sorry, 56.
Yeah, I was going to say, because Zanatello was 1.7, so a little bit below.
1.51 was 1.51 was 55th. 1.47 was 56th, though, right in that range.
Yep. Meanwhile, some other weird ones, so Matt Duffy in the fourth round signed for 350K. So the Red Sox saved 230 under slot from that one. 230K. Christian Campbell, the shortstop who was picked with the first compensation pick after the fourth round, and Connolly early in the fifth round, both got slot, which was a little surprising. Maybe not with Campbell, but early getting slot. But then the more you think about it, that one kind of made sense too.
He's a junior. He's performed. They clearly like him. I think it fits the trend of they've taken guys around there that given close to full slot, or maybe even more in the case of like Shane Drohan a couple of years ago. So
Yep. Yeah. So that one made sense. The picks in rounds 6 through 10 all signed for under slots. That's where they made a lot of their savings, unsurprisingly. And then as far as the day 3 guys go, they've signed everyone but the 3 high school kids. So 11th round pick outfielder Nelly Taylor signed for $300K, which was $150K over slot. It doesn't seem like anyone else after that went for over slot, which is predictable. It seems like everyone else is, my guess is everyone else is going to sign for between, 50 and 150K, and none of it's going to
count. It's a bunch of culture relievers, so it makes sense.
Yeah. And then the 3 high school kids, Phoenix Call, Dylan Schlegel, and Robert Orlowski. Gun to my head, I would guess that none of them sign. It seems like there might be a chance Orlowski signs, but who knows? I don't know. It's where the thing is, looking at it, it's like you've got a commitment to UCLA, a commitment to Dallas Baptist, and a commitment to UT San Antonio when you're from Idaho. Like, I could see that being the least strong commitment, but it's also but who maybe knows? You transfer now.
I think though what it says is that what's clear by the way the signing call was just a backup in case something went wrong with Zanatello or Anderson. He was never, I don't think, likely to sign, as I know some people after the draft were hopeful, but the math never works if you're giving those two guys $4.5 million between the two of them.
And then the math works if you don't sign one of them, because while you lose their slot value, they were both getting so far over slot. Like Zanatello got what, 1.3 million over slot. If you don't sign Zanatello and you sign everyone else the way you were planning to, you've got 1.3 million to spend. Then you go say, hey, Phoenix Call, here's $1 million. Like,
what do you think? And Anderson, I think, got what, 800K over slot or so. So you can get close
850 and he got 1.5. So say, I think it was like 750 over. So maybe 750 plus 150, you get to 900K and you say, look, here's what we got.
Yeah.
So. And who knows? And we don't even know how far under slot Reimer is going to be, right? Or if he is under slot. So Reimer hasn't signed yet. Mm-hmm. I reported yesterday from a team source that they expect him to sign. It doesn't sound like there is an issue. It sounds like it's more logistical. So it's just a matter of getting him in and putting ink to paper. So before he signs, they have $508,655 under the cap plus 5% mark, which is the real cap. His slot is 487,800. We'll see what he gets. Say he gets like 200 and they save 287 to go give to someone. Like, does 287 plus 150 get you, Orlowski? I don't know. What is that? That's like between 4 and 500K.
Yeah, so, but I don't think he's going to take that much under slot. I just don't see that.
Yeah, well, it just depends. I mean, it's like the knee versus how much he wants to go pro versus rehab with Boston versus rehab back at school. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be that low either. I'm just saying. Best case scenario for signing one of the high school kids would probably be if he were that low. It doesn't sound like that's going to be. Well, no, I shouldn't even say sound. It doesn't seem like he's going to be that far under. But we'll see. Tomorrow at 5, signing deadline. We'll check us out. Follow us on Twitter at SP Chris Hatfield and at Ian Cundall. We'll have thoughts depending on what happens there. I do wish they weren't waiting quite so till the last minute, honestly, but it is what it is. Because it's funny, if Reimer doesn't sign, they're, by my count, going to lose their first round pick next year because they are over the 5% number for the picks they have signed.
Well, and I think that's the biggest indicator that he's going to sign, because I don't think they would put themselves in a position where they potentially lose that pick over a supplemental 4th rounder. Like, you just don't do that.
1,000%. So anyway, I mean, even if he holds them hostage for the full 508K, whatever, kid, here it is. Fine. Who cares?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, yeah, but we don't know what's going on, where we assume he's going to sign, and if he doesn't, then yikes.
Yeah. Moving on, MLB, Ian, the series of transactions that we all knew was coming has started today. The Red Sox optioned Brandon Walter,
but it hasn't. They just hedged.
Well, they made the obvious ones. So they activated Pablo Reyes and optioned Brandon Walter and Justin Garza. So the roster is currently at 25. Tomorrow, on Tuesday, they are going to activate John Schreiber from the 60-day IL, and they're going to have to activate Brian Bayo from the paternity list, even though he's not pitching until Wednesday, because you can only be on the paternity list for 72 hours, which, by the way, is wild. I guess they don't want teams to milk it, but it's also just kind of come on, man, it's paternity leave. Like it's in what job right now that you work full-time salary do you get 3 days of parental
It's actually
leave?
it's funny when you say that, because I was just thinking like, yeah, what if like the outcry if it came out like, yeah, you only get 3 days like paternity leave in like a corporate job, like he
Oh
works in
yeah,
like,
it'd be
or like,
wild.
yeah.
And I
I
mean,
never thought of that until you
I
said
guess
that.
the thinking is you don't have to be at your job from November through February, right? Like
Yeah,
that's kind of the trade-off, but it's also just
yeah.
like it's 3 days of parental leave. Like, what the hell?
Well, yeah, because like, what if there's any complications? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just,
Well,
yeah.
if
But I
there's
guess, well, you
complications,
just
like what
put a
you
move into
can
the restricted list. But
you
yeah,
can you can put a guy on the restricted list, and there's a specific clause in there for if there are like complications or things like that, you
like
can
a
keep a
family
guy on it
emergency.
longer.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
there are like it's 3 days normal, but there's like an exception for if there are some kind of complications or family emergencies, and you can also apply to move the guy to the restricted list. In Bayo's case, my understanding is like if he had a problem getting back from the Dominican because he's in the Dominican, if he had a problem getting back, um, then like they could get the extra day, but they
I mean, I don't think it's worth it.
they're
Like
most likely going to activate
they've
him.
kicked it down the road far enough, deciding what to do with the middle infielders, and I think
Yeah,
it's time to make the decision, because the reason it's taking this long is clearly they're trying to trade one of them.
yeah, they're trying. Well, and apparently, I forget who wrote the article, and I feel bad about it, but they apparently haven't even given, as of the All-Star break, hadn't even thought about designating Kiké Hernandez for assignment, which like I would think of more as a precursor to trading him.
Yeah, just do that,
Um,
and then you can trade him.
but like, yeah, I mean, they got to do something here, and like Christian Arroyo is hurt. It's his thumb, I think.
Yeah,
He jammed
jammed
his
thumb.
jammed thumb. It sounds like, based on all the reporting, it is not something that they're going to put him on the IL for. Which is interesting because he's already been out for 5 days. If they'd known 5 days ago, I'm sure they would have just put him on the IL. If they knew he was going to be out for 5 days. But Alex Cora made it sound like he will be ready to go on Tuesday, and they're not necessarily inclined to IL him just to kick the can further down the road. What do you do, Ian? I mean, I guess it seems like part of it is what would you get for any of these guys, right? Like, because I'm not adverse to trading. Like, I guess my first answer is whoever I'm going to get the most for among the three of them. Like, bon voyage.
Yeah. I mean, I think the obvious solution is to try and trade Hernandez, because I think he probably would have the most value.
Yeah,
But the problem with him is his salary is going to scare team. Is going
you're
to
gonna
make
have to pay it down.
Yeah, you're going to have to pay it down, and that's why it flips to Arroyo. But Arroyo doesn't really fit with what they need because he's not hitting lefties at all. He's been atrocious against lefties this year. I think he's like a 500 OPS or just over 500 OPS against lefties, and that's the biggest thing they need. Assuming once Story gets back, is like someone who can platoon there. So it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would, if I had to guess. I honestly think it's actually going to be Hernandez or Arroyo. I think they're going to keep
Really?
Reyes around because he's
I mean,
cheap.
based
Cheap.
yeah.
He can play multiple positions. He's makes contact. He's a better defender. And yeah, I think that and the thing that's weird is they're going to have to get rid of another one of these guys once Story comes back in like probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So
Unless someone gets hurt in the meantime, which like with Arroyo is always a possibility.
right. But the thing is, like, it's hard because Reyes has performed the best out of all of them at the plate of the three guys there. Weirdly.
But he also is like, is that the most sustainable?
But he also probably has the least value of them in a trade. So it's like, I don't know. I think what they'll do is they're going to DFA Hernandez and trade him by the deadline, whether it be them eating down the salary or just being like, just take him for nothing, take him for a player to meet him later.
Well, cash. The reports are that the Dodgers are considering bringing him back, but they are worried about how he'll react to a part-time role.
But that worries me with the Red Sox too, because he's going to be in a part-time role with the Red Sox. He already is, and he's going to be even more.
Yes,
he already is, and he's going to be in more of a part-time role once Story gets back. So it's like,
because Duran at this point has center field lockdown.
Yeah.
And at this point, I think I want them to stop platooning him too. I think you just leave him at the set it and forget it at the top of the lineup.
I agree to a point. I have no problem. I think unless he needs a day off, you try to time it so he takes a day off against the lefties.
Like you're facing.
But I have no problem hitting for him later in games. Sure. If it's like, it's a 4-3 game and they bring in a lefty reliever for him, hit Russ Snyder, because Russ Snyder is obviously one of the best platoon bats in the league against left-handed pitching. I agree, though, he should be starting the majority of the games against lefties. He's got to start seeing those. Same with Costas. They both need to start seeing those guys more consistently.
Yep. And I think they are.
If you're going to hit for them later, fine. But I from the start, I want them to get a couple of at bats.
Yeah, and I think that's what they've been doing too.
Because the only reason Hernandez is playing right now is because Arroyo's hurt. If Arroyo was healthy, I don't think Hernandez would be doing anything other than pinch hitting right now. So it's like or a defensive replacement late on when they pinch hit for Yu Chang. So it's just a weird. And if you're going to do that, Reyes can be the defensive replacement for Yu Chang when you pinch hit for him. So it's like, I don't think Hernandez has a place on the roster when everyone's back, especially not when everyone's back, but once Story gets back. And if you do it now, you can at least move him, or you can try to trade him. Whereas I guess after the trade deadline, he goes on a waiver claim to someone, or he gets just a free agent, because there's no more waiver trades. So
yeah, I mean, you just have to cut him and put him on waivers,
because they've stopped with the thing where, if you clear waivers, you can trade a guy. So it's like, or no, they claim them, and I don't remember how it used to work.
No, it was you put the guy on waivers, and if he clears, you can trade him in August. Which what was the trade deadline then?
Yeah, but that's gone now. So it's like,
that's what I'm saying.
That's why I think it's more likely to be Hernandez right now, because I think it's harder to just outright cut him than it is those other guys.
Yeah, I mean, so in the 5 games after the break, which is when Arroyo was healthy, although it includes 2 games when Rafael Devers was hurt. Although I guess Justin Turner was just playing third those 2 games. Tristan Arroyo started 4 of them at second base. Started 4 of them at second base, came in as a defensive replacement in the 5th one for Turner, because that was the Turner starting at second base game. Or the first Turner starting at second base game. Kiké Hernandez got 1 start, and that was at short on the 15th, and he pinch hit twice.
Yeah. And that's the thing. None of these guys fit what they need, because what they need is a left-handed hitting second baseman. And we'll get to it in a little bit. Valdez is on the IL, so he's not an option. Plus, his defense is bad. You don't really want that.
Yeah.
So it leaves them in a weird position where I honestly think that, and we'll get to, this is one of the positions that they should be looking to address at the trade deadline. I don't think they've been linked with anyone at it yet. It seems like it's more pitching, but left-handed hitting second baseman would be a nice add. I would take any second baseman, honestly. Anyone who I think can be an everyday second baseman, I would take. But yeah.
Because as you mentioned, I mean, there really isn't a plan for next year in place either. Even if you are super bullish on Marcelo Meyer,
even if you can get ready by August or July,
you can easily just get someone that you can either then flip or move to the bench. Right. Like,
I mean, the best option is the guy who would fit ideally, someone like Brandon Drury, but he's in LA and I don't think they're going to sell because they've won a few games in a row now. So
Brandon Donovan mentioned. I'm actually
I think he would require a lot though. I think he's got like 4 years of team control left, but he would fit very well. He's a left-handed hitting outfielder, obviously, or left-handed hitting utility guy. I think he's hitting like 290.
Yeah. Oh, he entered the year with basically 1 year of service time.
Yeah.
So he's got 4 years.
He would require a lot.
He's not a free agent. He's ARB eligible in 2026.
Yeah. So he's like an R2. So yeah, I don't see that matching up. But I mean, it's gonna be an interesting decision, because I think this is what's going to kickstart their deadline, is what happens tomorrow, whenever they make this move. Because whoever they DFA is either going to get claimed or they're going to trade. I think that you could get something. I mean, it's not going to be a lot, but you could get something for Arroyo or Reyes if you DFA them too. So
yeah, it's not going to be a lot, but
no, it won't be a lot. But one of those could. I just think with their salaries are a lot lower than Hernandez, which is why I think that there's more teams. It brings more teams into the picture. But that's the beginning, and then it's just gonna. I mean, as we approach the deadline, where they're 2 games back of the Blue Jays. They're tied with the Yankees, 2 games ahead of the Angels. I think with this position, with the way the team is constructed, you have to buy. And I'm fine with also doing like the buy and sell, like some spare parts approach too. Like if they trade Adam Duvall, that's fine with me. If they trade Hernandez, as I said, fine.
I
But
think the ship has sailed on the idea of trading Paxton. That's not
I don't think you
happening
can
at
trade
this
if you
point.
trade Paxton or Verdugo. That's the white flag move to me. I
Yes.
wouldn't unless Verdugo maybe not. Verdugo, okay, Verdugo's weird because I think in baseball terms, it's not a white flag move, especially if you're getting like a cost controlled starting pitcher back.
You'd have to sell it
But
really hard in
but
the
I think
locker
it's
room.
tough. It would be a lot tough one for the locker room and the fan base to do that.
Yeah.
Paxton, you just can't trade Paxton right now.
No.
I mean, you saw his last start, his value. He's been too good lately.
And people forget, like, you can make him a qualifying offer potentially at the end of the season. Like, you're not necessarily losing him for nothing. Like,
I would be happy to give him, I'll get him on a 1 year deal, whatever it is, 18 million or so.
Might be 20 this year.
20. I mean, fine. I 1 year deal with pitchers, sign me up, especially guys who are 39. Like, yeah, I'm fine with that. But I think that's the most likely thing is maybe because they do have somewhat of a logjam in the outfield. Ref Snyder is very good, and Duvall's not going to be an everyday guy with against any. He's not going to be an everyday guy. They're kind of rotating. You know, everyone is sitting once every 5 days or so right now. So I think at the end of the day, you got to start putting your best lineup out every day, and your best lineup every day against righties is going to have the 3 left-handed hitters in the outfield. With Costas at first, Devers at third, and Turner at DH. So unless you're going to play Turner every day at second base, which I don't think they want to do, and I don't think anyone wants to see that either.
No.
Duvall's going to be a bench guy against most righties down the stretch. So I just think it makes a lot of sense to try and maybe you can flip Duvall for a reliever or even, a back end starter.
Just if it's the Braves, though, so the report today is the Braves might be interested in bringing Duvall back.
Get some prospects and you flip the prospects for that.
It's a prospect,
but that's fine too. I just think something like that makes a lot of sense for if you're going to kind of do that like hedging route, not hedging, but like playing both sides of it, kind of like they did a little last year.
And we mentioned a few things that the Red Sox need in the majors, one of them being the infield piece. And I guess it's worth maybe mentioning because I'm sure we've got people who are wondering as we say this, because we are, in fact, the Prospect Podcast. In AAA, they've got a left-handed hitting infielder in David Hamilton, and they've got a guy that can play excellent defense up the middle in Ceddanne Rafaela, although he hits right-handed. Neither of them to me is an option. Hamilton, you've already seen, is just not ready at the plate. I mean, he came up and was practically.
He was also not ready in the field. So.
Yeah, right. Well, it would be at second base, right? So it wouldn't be a shortstop.
I mean, maybe he's better there, but still, I'm just saying it's not Valdez there, right? Because we've already talked about Valdez. He's Valdez at shortstop, but
yeah. Ceddanne Rafaela. Obviously, the outfield is taken care of, but I think there's some couldn't he at least play? Well, couldn't he at least play just as good defense, if not better, than Chang while hitting any better? Like Chang's hitting 150. And the answer that I have to that, and I want to see if you agree, is yes, he could be worse.
Yeah,
very easily could be worse.
I mean, with Rafael, I think the biggest obstacle is you have Trevor Story coming back. You're not going to call Rafael up to the majors for 2 weeks and then demote him. That's just not worth it at all. And while I understand that maybe Rafaela could have a better, Yu Chang has been one of the best defensive shortstops in baseball this year.
And you don't need to have murderer's row from 1 through 9.
No, you can have 2 defense first guys when your first 6 hitters all have an OPS over 800 and your 7th hitter is like a platoon guy who is okay. It's not worth it because I don't want to disrupt his development. He's obviously performing well at AAA. The issues are still there. He's still chasing a ton. And I as we kind of talked about, I think you just kind of have to accept that's what he is at the plate at this point. But when I look at Yu Chang, he's fine. As you said, he's serviceable in what they need him right now. And it's a short-term thing. And you have Story coming back. And I'm not going to call Rafael up just on the off chance maybe he's a slightly better hitter than Chang. I don't think that changes your outlook that much for this season, especially given he's not even playing shortstop that much. How much has he played in?
Once a week.
He's back to playing mostly outfield now, right?
Yeah, now that they actually got healthy down there, especially they just got Ryan Fitzgerald back and he's been playing second base. He is back to mostly playing center field.
It doesn't make sense to call a guy up Like shortstop is a very difficult position to play. And he's
Yeah,
not even
since the
playing it
break,
full-time.
he has started at shortstop twice and center field 3, 6, 7 times.
Yeah. So it's not worth, calling him up and being like, hey, you're the everyday shortstop for 2-3 weeks until Story comes back. I don't see the value in that. And as you said, it's not clear to me that he would be better than Chang has been defensively or offensively.
Look, if 3 guys get hurt during the 2-game Braves series, like, okay, like giddy up, let's give it a shot. You're the next man in, right? And if then the argument is, well, it's only 2 weeks, right? But to me, to clear space on the major league roster to replace Chang with Rafaela, like, yeah, he's hitting the cover off the ball in AAA. How many guys have been tearing the cover off the ball in AAA who come up to the majors?
Look at Bobby Dahlbeck. Bobby Dahlbeck is the greatest example. I think he's leading Worcester in every statistical, like, offensive category almost, and he's come up to the big leagues and he can't hit. Yeah. So, and that's the other thing. Chang's out of options too, right?
Yes.
So you're not going to DFA Yu Chang or one of the other infielders to bring up Ceddanne Rafaela. That makes zero sense, because then what happens if Rafaela is bad? Oh, wait, you don't have that guy you got rid of anymore.
Right.
Like, it just doesn't make sense. That's not good asset management right there. That just would be there'd be a negative move for your organizational depth.
Exactly. So not an option. On the pitching side, Ian, it's a starting pitcher and a right-handed reliever are clearly the two things that they have been linked to looking for. And it makes sense. You get someone into the rotation and then you hope, some combination, as we've said, Houck, Sale, Whitlock, in some combination, locks down the rest of that. And honestly, I wonder, like the right-handed relievers they've been linked to have not been of the setup man caliber even. And I think that makes sense.
They're replacements, so you don't have to have Taylor Scott, Justin Garza, Caleb Ward types on your roster.
Right. And I think that's like, and it's like, look, if you get Houck back healthy, if you get Whitlock back healthy, maybe one of those guys slots into the bullpen in a late inning role. We know both of them can look pretty nice in that role.
Well, I mean, if you get those guys back, or if you get any starter, then Pivetta can just go back to being more of a bullpen guy too.
That's true.
So,
yep. And we know that he's been electric back there too.
Yeah. So if you're telling me that if you get that's why I think I personally would go get a starter more than a reliever, because if you can get a starter, then it pushes Pivetta back. You still have Houck, Whitlock, potentially Sale coming back. Like, you can go out there, and then that leaves you with at the worst, Jansen, Martin, Winkowski, Pivetta as your right-handed relievers. That's a dang good right-handed relief core, especially with Winkowski after his break looking more like his, earlier in the season self. He's starting to miss bats again. His velo's back. So it just all, everything kind of fits better if you can get that one guy in the rotation and push out one of those bullpen games into like a normal reliever role.
Right. Yeah. And the problem that I have is just there really haven't been many reports about guys who could be available. I mean, the names you see out there all seem kind of rich. I mean, you mentioned Michael Lorenzen on the last episode.
I think he's given up a run like 22 out or 22. Yeah. So he's kind of pitching his way into costing a lot more.
There's like Lucas Giolito,
Jordan Montgomery,
Marcus Stroman,
Jack Flaherty, Jordan Montgomery from the Cardinals.
Yeah. They all seem like, I mean, you want a no kidding starting pitcher, right? We're not looking for Doug Fister here, but I mean, I guess they've got pieces they can give up that I would be comfortable giving up, and maybe that's the other piece.
They have depth to deal from. Like,
they do.
Even when I look at who they have to add to the 40 man,
where do you identify the depth? I mean, maybe that's where we need to go next.
Well, the way you do it is you do what the Padres do. You trade guys who are on the 40-man bubble.
I think that's one. Or on the 40, I would add. Actually.
Or on the 40, yeah. And I look at what they have, and like, there are several guys who I'm not sure what the Red Sox would protect, who other teams maybe would, like Angel Bastardo, Bradley Blaylock. I'm not saying they won't. Like, we're still evaluating that, but I'm saying that, if you told me that you could get a guy who can help the major league team now for a couple of those, for guys like them, like Brainer Bonucci, Emmanuel Valdez, a guy on the 40, as you mentioned, Willie Abreu, guys like that. I'm definitely open to that.
Well, that's what I'm looking at, because you look at like Valdez and Abreu, right? Where's their fit on this roster? And they're like pretty good prospects. Like, if you find a team that's ready to give Willie Abreu a shot next year, like, have them, man. Like, good luck. Like, and that's not a knock on Abreu. It's not saying they value him more. It's just that, like, I don't see how the Red Sox give Willie Abreu a shot in Boston. I don't see how the Red Sox maybe they can give Valdez a shot next year. We mentioned second is kind of open. Maybe you give him a shot in a platoon, but again, like the defense is tough. I think he fits better on a club that can like DH him.
Breaking news.
What?
Jim Callis, supplemental 4th round pick Justin Reimer is signed with the Red Sox for $500,000.
Okay, so he basically took up the rest of the cap. Cool.
Yep. He got
Not
overslot.
surprising. Overslot.
Nope. So that's
I almost wonder if he like lucked out by being the last one to sign.
I just feel like they know all this. It's all mapped out ahead of time.
Well, I know they know it, but I almost wonder if like maybe they agreed to 400 and they were like, hey, we've got like 100K.
We're not getting the other guy. Yeah.
Like,
so that closes the door. They're not getting.
That closes the book.
They're not getting any of the high school guys.
Okay,
so.
Cool. Thank you, man.
Sorry, I had to.
Thank you for interrupting. No, that was good. I thought they made a trade or something. You had me really excited.
Well, I was thinking, I was like, what noise can I make from my phone?
You don't have the reggaeton horn?
No, I didn't have any, or like a cow or like a duck or turkey would have been great, but I don't have a turkey sound readily available, which is unfortunate.
I used to put the turkey sound in post, unfortunately. So
yeah. So I mean, every time I talk, I just assume that's what everyone hears, but it's nice that that's settled. So the draft is settled. Now back to what we were talking about before.
Yeah. So, okay. I think the first part, you're right. The first demo is on the 40 or near the 40.
Yeah. Because Bastardo, Blaylock, Lou,
CJ Lou, Ryan Zephyr-John, even like
Grant Gambrell. I kind of liked him.
Ryan Fernandez.
Ryan Fernandez, Luis. Guerrero doesn't have to be added, does he?
No, he does not.
No, he does not. Brian Fernandez, Alan Castro, maybe even like I know he's someone.
Yeah, no, Alan
Castro. He's not going to get picked. He's also not going to get picked. So I think there's less of an urgency with him. But when I look at like guys like Bastardo, Blaylock, Lou, like guys like Fernandez, and like those are the type of guys that if a team really believes in them, maybe there's an outside chance they would get picked. So yeah, I mean, and the other one, the obvious one, if you're going to make a bigger trade to me, is someone like Wilkelman Gonzalez, but
depends how big the fish is. It really depends on how big the fish is.
I'm not sure he's someone I'd be that open to trading yet.
Well,
like
if
you're not trading him for Rule 5 space.
If you can get a starting pitcher who's going to be in your rotation next year too.
That's the thing. He's when we're talking about those higher end guys, and I honestly think Bonucci might be approaching this territory. These might be the type of guys you're only dealing if you're getting someone who has a little more cost control or is on the higher end of the market. When I'm talking like Bonucci, Gonzalez, obviously Perales, but I don't think they're going to trade him. Drohan, like guys like that, I would need someone with some control or be like a higher end player. Like I think a good example of like the right-handed reliever maybe they go and get would be someone like a Pierce Johnson level player. He got traded today.
Yeah.
And I think the Braves gave up like their 12th and 25th ranked prospect, and the Brave system is really bad.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you need to give up Zephyr-John and maybe not Bonucci, but like Castro even feels like a lot. I don't know. Would you do Castro and like say a Zephyr-John
for like a Pierce Johnson type?
For like a Pierce Johnson type, that feels steep.
No, I think you'd be looking at more like, like something like
Zephyr-John Paulino.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I just think, and this is where it's going to come. A lot of it's going to come down to, I kind of think, what other teams think of these players. Because even talking to teams like I have recently, there's a wide range of outcomes on a lot of these guys. Like you'll find a team that might really like. I'm not
based on any conversation.
Yes. Not based on it. Just throwing some names out there. But like if you find a team that thinks Angel Bastardo is a starter, they might have him in the top 20 in the organization. But you're going to talk to other teams maybe who have him as a reliever. Same thing with Bradley Blaylock, Hunter Dobbins. Like they have a lot of guys who fit that bucket of like, if you find the right team that thinks they're a starter, you probably could get them valued as a higher end player in your organization, but there are going to be other teams who think they're a reliever and they're going to not value them as highly. And I think it's kind of like, it's a game. It's, can you find that the right team, the player that maybe you don't have as, much faith in at a certain level to be a starter versus a reliever type.
Yeah.
And just, getting the most for that player that you can.
I mean, just looking at guys who could have value that I could see them parting with, like just looking on the pitching side, for example, looking at the Portland roster, like Wilkelman Gonzalez, we talked about as a guy who could go on the 40, who needs to go on the 40
he's
man.
He's going to get added. Like if he's still getting added, I feel he's going to get added this offseason.
Yes.
I'd say,
but if you're going higher end in that team, like Wilkelman Gonzalez, like if you can get like
I'm also fine trading because
cool.
I saw him and I mean, we'll get to it in a little bit, but I'm still not convinced he's a starter, even though I thought his breaking ball was disgusting. But yeah.
Like, but then you look beyond him on that staff and like CJ Liu, Hunter Dobbins, Grant Gambrell, Chris Troy, Ryan Zephyr-John. These are all guys that like I could see teams being interested in.
Well,
right?
I'm
to varying degrees.
I've seen a lot of Portland this month, just the way the schedule has worked. And when I look at that team, let me do the math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's like 9 or 10 guys I could legitimately see pitching in the major leagues on that pitching staff.
Yep.
And
it's a good staff.
Yeah. So that's the key, is just finding the right fit. And that's what's unclear is, do you match up with that team?
Drop down to Greenville, like Angel Bastardo, Dalton Rogers, Bradley Blaylock, Alex Hoppy, if you find a team that really likes his fastball, some other guys that I could see as throw-ins, right? Like they have a lot of guys.
Maybe Jose Ramirez,
perhaps. Like Joey Stock's got a funky arm angle. If you find a team that wants someone who comes pretty much straight over the top.
Your Donnie Monegro, maybe. I bet there will be teams interested in him.
In Salem, in Salem, Monegro, maybe you find a team that likes Paez. Like
Marquise Johnson might even. He's been really good lately, and his stuff is nasty. So
I mean that staff looks a lot. It's been pretty depleted by promotion, but
which is what it should be at this point.
Exactly.
Basically, low A now is basically the Penn League after the draft by like midseason. It's basically what the Penn League used to be. Because if you told me like if the Penn League still existed and this was the lineup, would you believe it? I'm sure you.
We've talked about that.
Yeah. So
and then on the offensive side, like honestly, that Portland infield I think is really interesting. Like if you find a team that really likes Blaze Jordan. Like, I mean, I don't know if you would or not. Like, you're not going to find one that likes him as much as the internet does. But, if you find it, like, if you were really
same with Chase
Mydroth. Yeah, no question. Maybe a team likes Philip Sykes as like the second or third guy. Like, maybe a team.
I still like Tyler McDonough. Honestly, if I was a team, I would not be opposed if I could get him for nothing or a small piece. I would definitely consider that. I still think.
I mean, you drop down to Greenville, like Brian or Bonasy. Like Bonasy, I would love to see in Portland this year. I don't know where the hell you're going to play him because you've already got York, Meyer, Mydroth, Jordan there. Like,
it's the infield is crowded. Like, it's weird. I saw 3 games or whatever. I haven't seen Matthew Lugo, and I've seen like 5 Portland games this month, and Lugo hasn't
he's
played
basically on the bench at this point. Like,
it's just a weird. But that's just it's kind of what we talked about. Once you get to Double A, you got to perform. If you don't perform when you're in Double A, you're not going to play. And especially with the horses they have coming at other positions, because they have depth at those infield spots. And
And by the way, it doesn't get any like less like crowded. I mean, you look at the Salem infield right now, it's Ravello, Coffey, Romero. They're all going to be moving up. Meanwhile, like, because as I was doing our 2024 projected rosters page as part of like putting in all the draft signings in Salem next year, you're going to have Zanatello, Anderson, Marvin Alcantara, probably, maybe not, Christian Campbell, right? All with needing infield time.
Well, Justin Salem, Reimer too. Or Reimer might go straight.
Reimer might be on the long-term IL.
He also might go straight. No, he'll be back by then. Full year for an ACL?
I guess.
Yeah, we've seen that. But Bryce Harper came back in like 6 months. Like,
yeah, but Bryce Harper's a mutant.
He had his injury.
Bryce Harper's Wolverine.
It was in like March or February. He'll definitely be back by, I would say, by April.
Bryce Harper was his knee?
No. Yeah, he tore his ACL, wasn't it?
I thought it was UCL. Wasn't it his arm?
Might have been UCL.
It was his UCL. He had Tommy John.
Did he?
Because remember last year he was DHing because he couldn't throw.
Yeah, you're right. It was UCL.
Yeah.
I get those confused.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
All I know is I just Googled ACL baseball, and a guy in the NCAA this year hit 4 home runs in 4 games on torn ACL. So, I was thinking of Hoskins. That's who tore his ACL on the Phillies.
Oh, right. Yep.
That's who I was thinking of.
On that foul ball pop-up.
Yeah, in spring training this year. But like he tore it in March, and he's projected to be back for next year. Reimer had about the same time frame. So
that's fair. But then you look at like next year's FCL roster, and we're probably looking at like guys you might trade 2 years down the line. But it's like Yoelis. I gotta make Yoelin. I am enunciating his name because Ian keeps thinking I say it wrong.
No, you sound like you're saying Yoenis.
Well, that time I just said it wrong because I was thinking.
No, at that time you did say it wrong, but in the last episode I thought you were calling him Yoenis the entire time, and I was just laughing. Yeah. But I didn't want to correct you because it was. Well,
funny. You keep thinking I say Yoan.
Oh yeah, whatever. I just
because I don't enunciate. I don't enunciate perfectly for his name. But Cespedes is coming up. Franklin Arias is coming up. Like it's going to get crowded in that infield.
Yeah.
But again, let it happen first.
Yeah.
Before we worry too much about it.
No, I just think though that I think the names, if I had to pick here, to finish this discussion, if you had to pick 3 players to watch, if the Red Sox are trading prospects, who do you think the big 3 would be? The 3 most likely to be traded?
Reiner Bonusy.
I think that's a good answer.
Hunter Dobbins.
I think that's a good answer. And let's be clear, we're not saying they should trade these guys.
No,
We're just saying that these are who I think teams will be asking about.
Yes,
that's the best way to frame this. Who will teams be asking about?
Angel Bastardo, maybe, or CJ Lou.
Yeah, I think Bastardo is a good, and this is beyond the obvious ones. Like obviously teams are going to ask about Wickham and Gonzalez or Marcelo Meyer, Nick.
Well, and I think it depends on what they're trading for too, right? Because it's like if they decide if someone becomes available, like a starting pitcher who's cost controlled, like Wickham and Gonzalez, no question.
Yeah.
Jumps
but
off.
I think Dobbins is a fascinating one to me because he's someone I could see a lot of teams having interest in if they believe he can start, because he throws a ton of strikes. He's got 4 pitches, and I guess we'll get into more later, but
that was mechanics
right after this. But yeah, but the delivery is oof. But I do wonder if there's going to be somewhat of a shift with that, where teams are just going to be like, all pitchers are going to get hurt. Doesn't matter if the delivery is good or bad. If he's got 4 pitches and we think he can start, we'll rush them to the big leagues, let them go as long as they can, and then if they get hurt, that's what happens. I know it's kind of cynical when you phrase it like that, but I just look at the way teams have handled, but it's also the way teams are starting to handle pitchers. Like, look at the A's. Mason Miller got to the big leagues on like 40 innings in the minors, and obviously he's hurt already, but that's it. I feel like it just makes sense with if you think a pitcher is ready and their stuff is good enough, just push them aggressively, get them up into the high minors as quick as possible, and potentially on the doorstep of the big leagues. And if the delivery or there's injury risk, so be it. Like, that's going to happen with a lot of pitchers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, do we want to transition over to Portland, Ian? You spent a significant amount of time with the Sea Dogs recently, putting the C in Sea Dogs as you rode to and fro.
The Friday game, I had the best. I think I was very proud of my setup. I was using my my see-through clipboard and my phone underneath it to take notes because it was too wet to write on anything because all my papers were just soaked. So
nice.
I was taking notes in my notes app on my phone, which was quite an interesting, through a green. It was basically like a green clipboard, like neon green clipboard. So it was a very interesting color. Did you
remember a towel? Because I'm about 50-50 on remembering a towel usually when it's wet.
I have 2 towels in my bag at all times for games. That's just a standard. Mm-hmm. You need them because they're versatile. Sometimes you need them to dry your seat off, or which I did do that because I got there early enough for BP.
Or if you sweat. On
Sunday also sat down, seat was really, really hot because there's no shade in Portland. Threw the towel down on the seat. Boom. Perfect.
There
comfortable.
Perfect.
So towel is a must in the scouting backpack. But the Friday game. So I think there's a couple like contextual factors that I think sometimes are hard to miss or easy to miss when you just look at the box score. And I think the first one is that you have to understand the quality of the opponent. And this New Hampshire lineup is not good. There's maybe 3 legitimate, and when I say legitimate, I mean like top 25 prospects in the Blue Jays system.
Who did Lou throw the no-hitter against?
I have no idea.
I'm gonna look it up. You keep talking.
But so this is not a very good lineup. That's the first thing. The second thing is Friday night the weather was atrocious. The first 2 innings were fine. That was first inning was Joe Jones and second inning was Corey Kluber. Third inning was okay. It wasn't really raining. Fourth inning it started to drizzle. Fifth inning it was drizzling, and then it got progressively harder as the game went on. And by the time the 9th inning started with Zephyr John, it was pouring, and it only got worse as the 9th inning went on. And they gave up
they stopped it in the 9th, which is wild.
But that was after they had given up 4 runs,
right? And they wound up losing too. 6, I think.
No, they wound up winning. They won on a walk-off home run the next day.
Oh, that's right. That's right. They got 3 outs, and then Dearden led off with a home run. That's right.
But I'm not taking anything away from that Luis Guerrero or Ryan Zephyr John performance. I know their lines are both terrible. It was literally like a monsoon. Like they should have stopped. If it wasn't the 9th inning, the game would have been stopped, 2 innings.
They were just trying to get done.
They were just trying to finish the game. And it was also fireworks, and so many people were just waiting it out in the pouring rain, and I didn't have the heart to tell them, like, they're not going to do fireworks if it's raining.
I don't get the obsession with
it
fireworks.
was wild
night.
Because usually
awesome.
you've been to a lot of minor league games. When it starts raining, usually people just, I'm done. Like,
they peace, yeah.
Like, I would say 70% of the stadium was still there, even in the pouring rain. I was like, they're not going to do fireworks. How does no one realize this? Like, there's no reason for you to be here unless you're enjoying the game.
If I could interject real quick, the experience I had in Fredericksburg when I was just recently there, the first night I was there, it rained. The game started like 2 hours late. The number of people who stayed through the rain delay and left when they announced the start time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Was
Maybe they just want a hot dog for dinner. They just want a hot dog for dinner.
Hot dog and a beer, because like the beer selection in that park is actually pretty solid. They have a local.
And it's probably
brewery.
what, like $5 for a hot dog and a beer or something.
Yeah, like it's not bad. Like I was strongly considering getting a beer, but I was just like, you know what? Like I got to make sure I'm not like drowsy during the game. Yeah, I'm trying to be a professional here. I've got like my media pass. I'm not trying to, you know,
you can't do that.
Spill on the media pass. But
no, so
anyway,
so with I'm not going to read anything into those guys. With Dobbins, I got 5 innings. Because I don't think we need to talk about Kluber. Like, no, he is what he is at this point. He was.
What was his velo?
He's 86 to 88. Breaking ball was good, but he's 86 to 88. You know, it is what it is. Dobbins. This is the first time I've seen him since spring training. Oh no, wait. I'm not sure I've ever seen him now that I think about it.
No, I don't think
did he pitch in spring training last year? No, he didn't pitch.
No, and he didn't pitch in spring. He didn't pitch. He was hurt last year.
This is actually the first time I've ever seen him.
Because I saw him last year in Delmarva.
Yeah, you saw him. Yeah.
And I liked it, but he looked relieverish.
Yeah. And so we'll start there. The delivery is very rough.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just bring up the game log right now, but it's like, I'll back it up a little bit. It's a good frame. You know, he's athletic. He's proportional. I think he's listed at like 6'2", 190. So, and I sounds right. Like he moves well on the mound. It's a very effortful delivery. Like he's starts in the middle of the rubber. He's got this really long arm action back and with like this arm hook that is not very clean. And it's funny because he comes from Texas Tech, which is, I guess, renowned for having pitchers who get hurt when they come to pro ball. And
really?
Obviously he's so not surprising. But the arm hook, like when he comes forward, it's pretty over the top. It's like high 3/4, very straight, and just it's not the cleanest delivery. And he falls off hard to first base. You can tell because of how vertical his slot is, it's pretty easy to tell when his arm was dropping, and you could definitely see it. There'd be times where it would drop a little bit, especially on a slider. And he kind of get on the side of it more. But it's hard to repeat that delivery for 6 innings or so. He did it in this game, and I think the most credit, like big credit to him. He throws a ton of strikes for a guy with that slot and that delivery. Like I think he's walked 5 guys in 41 innings this year or something, 40 innings in Portland this season. Or no, sorry, that was in Greenville. In Portland, he has 6 walks in 21 innings. So he's throwing a ton of strikes, but when you see them, they're all glove side. Like he has a lot of trouble commanding to his arm side, and it makes sense when you see his delivery because he's coming down from that slot, and it's just hard to. And when you're falling off hard to the first base side like he is, it's hard to stay on your interior line. You know, everything's going to be kind of wanting to come across the zone. So that was the first thing I noticed, was just that everything was away to right-handed, and it actually fits. It makes sense too, because if you look, he has actually pretty noticeable platoon splits this year. Righties are hitting 224 against him this year, and lefties are hitting 278. And he has substantially more strikeouts. I think his strikeout rate against righties, he's like 30%. Against lefties, it's like 24% or something. So it carried over to this game. Like I had 17 swinging strikes from him. This box score only has 16. There was one that was a check swing that the ump called on the swing, but I'm pretty sure that the official score didn't put that in as the guy swinging.
Yeah, we had a whole back and forth while I was out picking up dinner.
Yeah, but of the ones I had, I think 13 of the 17 were against righties, and that fits with what I saw, because his best pitches. And I need to see him again before the end of the season because it was raining. So I do wonder if that impacted his ability to like command or to throw his splitter because he didn't throw it very much. It was mostly fastball, slider, curveball, but both his slider and his curveball were very good against righties. His slider, like he was just constantly just peppering that down and away just off the plate to a righty where, the pitch starts over the middle or outer half and just falls off the table down and out of the zone. And they just couldn't touch it. He had a bunch of swings off that. And that was a really impressive pitch considering I know heading into the season, I'm pretty sure he was known more for his curveball, his kind of like the vertical 12-6 curveball. But I actually like the slider better. When I wrote it up, I've actually updated our scouting report on the side of him. I put a higher grade on the slider and the curveball because just that's what I've seen. So that was impressive. It was like 84 to 90. It was mostly 84 to 87, but he threw a couple at like 90 and 91 that looked like cutters. I know they're not cutters because Chris Smith wrote an article about him earlier this year, and he mentioned that he sometimes will throw at 90 miles an hour. I was like, okay, that fits. I guess I'll just call it a slider then. Because I texted someone, I was like, is this cutter? And they were like, no, I think it's a slider. He just is throwing it really hard. And I was like, okay. But I was impressed by the slider. I thought it was his best secondary pitch in the outing. And I know I skipped ahead, but his fastball velo too, he was like 93 to 95, 92 to 95, topped out at 97, sat mostly 94, 95. The velo did tail off a little bit as he got later in the game, but that's, if you're telling me he's guy who's up to 97 with, I went slider flash plus, curveball was like a 50, 55 potential, splitter was like a 40, 45, but with 4 viable secondaries, because I think you can use the splitter when sequenced correctly still. It's a really interesting guy. And now it just comes down to what happens with the command, because that's definitely a work in progress. And does he stay healthy? And if he can stay healthy, he's a guy that I think is going to, has the chance to move pretty quickly into the top 30 in the system because he's performing.
He's not there for you yet. I was wondering where you were going to put him based on.
I think
your write-up was pretty good. Pretty positive.
It's tough because I think the stuff would profile in a multi-inning relief role too.
Yeah, which is what we see happening with like Chris Murphy right now.
The problem is the command is what concerns me. Yeah. And it's also the ability to get lefties out. Because I thought his fastball quality did decrease as the game went on. I thought it wasn't as crisp. It wasn't missing as many bats. Like most of his swing and misses were on secondary pitches. And that's fine at Double-A, but you have to show the ability to keep hitters honest with your fastball. And even though it's like 90, 94, 95 up to 97, it's a pretty straight pitch. So it's definitely something that he needs to, as he gets stronger, gets more physically mature. I wonder if the fastball quality he'll be able to hold it up for longer, because it came out really hot. And then as the game went on, it kind of stagnated and he became more reliant on his secondary pitches. But yeah, I really liked what I saw. And I think that he's someone that you keep running out as a starter because, and I think what separates him from some of the other guys is, and it's actually Gonzalez is in the same boat. They both have 4 pitches. Like this isn't a guy where I'd be like shave a pitch off his arsenal. Like he has a chance. He was even though I didn't really like his splitter in this game, he still got a couple whiffs with it, and it's still an okay pitch. It's not like he's someone throwing a 35-40 show me pitch with that 4th one. It's still a legitimate pitch. And I was impressed. And I think that he's going to be a really interesting guy to watch the rest of the season to see if he can maintain what he's doing now and just keep going and keep throwing strikes, keep missing bats. And yeah, he's definitely on the radar and moving up in my mind, because I look at like compare him to someone like Luis Guerrero, who I saw on Sunday for a better look. I probably lean Dobbins at this point. I think Guerrero's stuff has taken kind of a step back this year. Mm-hmm. And I think that, and we've seen it with Murphy as the best example, but even if the command is a little iffy in that multi-inning role, it doesn't matter as much. You can be an effective pitcher. Yeah. If you're only throwing 2 to 3 innings, you can be an effective guy with 40 command. And the health risk is what's going to keep me from, strapping the rocket ship or, getting too aggressive with him, because I just think with the combination of the delivery, he's already had Tommy John once. There's not a very good track record with pitchers from Texas Tech. There's some concerns there, but yeah, I was very impressed. And he's definitely a guy I'm looking forward to seeing again this season.
How about Wickelman?
You want to do the hitters after, I guess.
Yeah, let's just do Wickelman. So we just went through Hunter Dobbins. Let's do Wickelman Gonzalez. You already talked about Guerrero. I don't know if you really have anything to add on him because who was the other reliever you updated? Chalucci. Apparently it's Chalucci.
Oh, is it? Okay. I
yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah. We learned that this year.
So I'll do Guerrero quick because I just started talking about him.
Yeah.
Fastball, the velo still there is 96, 97. The thing that's weird is he just hasn't shown the same splitter I saw last year. And I do wonder if but his slider is also improved. So I do wonder if that's just, they're kind of told him to, throw this many sliders. We know the splitter is good. But until he shows me again that splitter quality is there, it's tough to project him as like a surefire MLB relief arm because there are some command and control issues. He's not throwing as many strikes as he was in Greenville, and he's not missing as many bats with the fastball. And so I think that I need to see that splitter back before I'm willing to put him. He's someone who's going to fall a little bit in the next month. I need to see that splitter back because that was the separator pitch before I'm willing to put him towards that more 20 to 25 range where some of the other relievers are versus more being a guy who's around 30. With Gonzalez. So, I guess we kind of buried the lead. They didn't give up a hit this game. They gave up 2 runs. They walked 7 guys. There were a couple wild pitches.
It was one of those really unclean no-hitters.
Oh, it was not a clean no-hitter at all.
Yeah.
And Gonzalez was funny too, because the way he did it was he walked the first 2 hitters of the game. Then he retired 15 in a row. Then he walked 2. And then I think he got like 2 more outs or 1 more out. No, 2 more outs. And then he was out of the game. So that was an entire outing. But he was good. He's 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, 4 walks, 15 swing and misses. The thing that really stood out to me was his curveball was fantastic. It was substantially better than his changeup or his slider. Those sliders always known as 4th pitch, but I know his changeup has been. He's had outings where it's been better, but it was all the curveball in this one. He had 6 swing and misses, 5 strikeouts on it. And it was just a pitch he could go to whenever he wanted in any count to both righties and lefties. And he was landing it for a strike. He was burying it down and out for misses. It was just a really impressive pitch. And, when you combine that with his fastball velo, he's like 94 to 96 in this one. And he held that, which was impressive for 6 innings. Just that 2 alone is good enough to be a reliever. Those 2 pitches alone. And that's why he's a tier above the quality with those 2 pitches that's really high end stuff right there. But he also flashed the ability to miss bats with the slider and the changeup. Changeup was like 84 to 88. Slider was the same velo band. Changeup is ahead of the slider for me. I still think it flashed like a 50-55, whereas the slider is more a 40-45 pitch. But the changeup, it doesn't have as much movement as some other changeups in the system, but he throws it with a really deceptive arm speed. And that's the most noticeable thing is when he mirrors its fastball, it just has that late sinking action. Whereas his fastball is very straight and it just can fall under the barrel because of that. So changeup was still pretty good. He got 2 swing and misses with that, 4 with the fastball, and then 3 in the slider. Slider, I think, is still a work in progress to me. But it was interesting. He was using it pretty early in counts. Like he'd throw it to just get a strike early on, or he was even going to it at times when he was behind in the count. So I wonder if that's something where they're having him work on that pitch. And, you have a certain number you have to throw per game, because in this one, you would have thought he would have just kind of bailed on it and gone with the other 3 pitches, but he held to it. And by the 6th inning, he finally started to get some feel for it. And he threw a couple really good ones in that inning. So yeah, so it was 4 pitches. He's small. There's definitely effort in the delivery. The strikes definitely has to improve. I think he only threw like 58% strikes in this game. And that's kind of the biggest concern with me is I'm just not sure he's very pitch efficient. To be a starter, it's hard to be a starter. You need to, and he's one of these guys who's trying to strike pretty much everyone out. And
right.
There'll be times where, he'll nibble a little bit because he's trying to get that swing and miss, whereas it might just be better to, get out of here with a couple 2-pitch at bats. And so that's the thing with me is I'm still not, I still, with right now, if you told me I had to lean one way, it would be a high-end multi-inning relief arm. But there's definitely the ceiling of a mid-rotation starter here still. It's just the outcomes are going to depend on where does the command and control go, and how do the secondary pitches continue to develop beyond his curveball? Will the changeup and the slider get to levels where he could be a guy who has at least 50 or 45, 350 pitches? And
Yeah,
that's the big thing.
I was going to say between Dobbins and Gonzalez, what did you think? What do you see as the major? Because I think it just is part of kind of like educating folks, right? When we're putting a gap between guys.
So
What's the separator between them?
Gonzalez his fastball is better quality, and his secondary pitch, his curveball is better than any of Dobbins'. Gonzalez's curveball, I put a 60 on it. I could have gone 65. It was filthy in this game. It was 74 to 70 or 75 to 79. It's got 2-plane break where it's not just a vertical curveball. Like it starts and it'll start on one angle, he can start it, right at a batter's head, and it'll end up on the inside corner with that like 11-5 shape. So it's moving, vertically and horizontally. It's a real separator pitch, and that was the best I've seen his curveball, and I've seen him obviously a bunch, but that was by far the best I've seen it. And to me, it's now a true, potential 60 pitch, and with his fastball, just that those two being potential 60s. I'm not sure Dobbins has the potential for a 60 secondary. I think it might be more. He's more like, a 55, 55.
50, yeah.
But I think the fastball, they both could have plus fastballs, but yeah, it's that curveball is the separator, which is why we have Wickleman in the top 10, and I feel very good about that. Even with his command and control issues, which are definitely a thing. That's something he's going to have to continue to work on. But, the stuff is there. The other issue with Wickleman, and it's not his fault. He's still very small. He's listed at 6'1", 180. And the 180 makes sense. I'm not sure he's 6 feet. Just looking at him, he just does not look that tall. And it's a game that you kind of have to play is how many starters look like this. And there's just not a lot who, that undersized right-handed profile is a tough one. There's just not that many guys like that. But Stroman's a unicorn. He's like 5'8" too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But like it's when you start having to go to those guys, that's when it's a problem.
Yeah. Because even Brian Bayo's like 6'1", 6'2". Gonzalez is 5'11", 6 foot. So those are the things that concern me, but I was very impressed. It was the best I've seen him in a while. And it just shows, like, since I want to say, what is it, mid-May, he's been outstanding. I think
Wickleman,
he's almost striking out 2 guys per innings. He's dominated.
Well, basically, there was an article about him the other day where apparently they sat him down and were like, look, here's the stuff between starts that we do and why we do it. And it sounded like it was kind of a like, maybe not the same way they called out Mata, like directly. But they kind of said, like, look, you're doing this, but I think you need to understand why you're doing it so you can take it more seriously and how it pays off in games. And they kind of like basically said, look, because he had a terrible first month.
Oh, yeah, he was really bad. He was bad.
And they kind of reset, and they had a meeting with him, like, look, here's the stuff we do. Here's why you need to do it. And here's why you need to focus on it a little more. And it sounds like he kind of rededicated himself, and he's been seeing results. So
I think also the delivery was a little better than I remember it being in the past. His issue is different than Dobbins in that his arm is too quick, and it'll just throw everything off because it just gets out so early. Whereas Dobbins is more, there's just effort with the way he throws.
There's a lot of moving parts in both cases.
But Gonzalez is pretty isolated in that his arm just gets out way too early
because he's cleaned everything else up too. Like I remember when I saw him with Salem, I mean, it was just like night and day from video you took later in the year in Greenville.
Yeah. And so that's something that can be worked on, but I think it's always going to be an issue with him just because of how quick his arm is. Like you're going to, if you're not right on point, you'll get it through too quickly. Do you want to do the lineup quickly? Yeah. Should we talk about Trevor Story first?
I mean, he's rehabbing. He yoked one. You got to.
I will say he looked. There's 2 things watching a major leaguer rehab I always enjoy because it gives you a good like reference point.
Calibration, 100%.
He's just another level of athlete compared to everyone else there. It's crazy watching him run the bases and then watching Chase Mydroth, Blaze Jordan, guys like that run afterwards. Story just glides around the bases. Like it's so effortless. So that really stood out. His timing is off. That's no surprise there. He's swinging, missing a lot.
The pitch he yoked was like a bad breaking ball. I think
it was a slider or a curveball that just hung, and he just crushed it.
He did what you're supposed to do, which is exactly what you tweeted.
He had a hit Sunday too when I was there, and he's going to take a while. And it's just reps. He missed all spring training. He just needs to see that pitching, and so that's the biggest thing that he has been missing for him. The other hitters. Marcelo Meyer, good. Marcelo Meyer saw him play third base for the first time in his career. no problem. Looked great. Moved over to shortstop, same thing.
Let me stop you with Meyer, Ian, because we've got a lot of people who are like, because the sample size, but with Greenville this year and Portland this year for Meyer is about equal. And his results in Portland have not been as good. Literally, I looked at strikeout rate, walk rate, hard hit rate, chase rate, in zone contact rate. Everything is more or less the same. There's differences, but it's like smidge in either direction. The only thing that is drastically different is his batting average on balls in play. Dropped from like 340 something to 230 something.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna continue.
Well, and I'm just saying, like, that's you, like, from what you've seen in person, and you've said this already, but I just want to confirm, like, in person, like, the looks, he's hitting the ball. It's just not falling in.
Yeah. He had a triple in the game, a great swing, fastball away, just went with it to right center field. He can move a little bit when he gets going, which was a little surprising. I don't remember him being as agile in the bases, because I know that's something that one of the knocks has been. He's probably more of a 40 runner, but when he gets going, he can move a little bit. The defense was really good. It's a plus arm. Actions are really smooth. He covers a lot of ground. He's just very comfortable throwing on the run. I really like his defense. And yeah, I'm not worried about the bat. I think it'll come around. One thing I will notice though, or will say, is he gets a ton of breaking balls. There were bats where he would not see a single fastball. It was just slider, curveball, slider, 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 slider. Like, I think the book is out in the sense that he does have some troubles with breaking balls, and with how
that's the one thing that he's been much worse at in Portland too. Is
with how many he's seeing, I think it's good practice, because that is an area of his game he could still stand to improve. Other than him, Blaze Jordan, I liked his defense. He was good at first base. Yeah, he was good at first base. He's got soft hands. He's got a good arm. It's probably like a 50-55 arm. So it's enough arm for third. He's third base, not so, it's a little tougher. Lack of range. It's not as agile over there, but I actually think he could be a pretty good defensive first baseman. At the plate, he's very aggressive, and I think it backs up what we've seen with the data. He goes up there to hit, and if he sees a pitch early in the count he likes, he's going to swing at it. And sometimes it's not a good pitch to swing at, and he'll end up he got himself out a lot where he was chasing pitchers' pitches and just rolling over weak pop ups. He had a couple hits. They were mostly weak singles, like little bloops, and it's interesting. It's not a very fluid swing, which was surprising to me. I don't know if when you watch the video, it looks a little weird to me at times. Yeah. But he just, it kind of like, there's some length in it. He kind of has to come around the baseball. Yeah. I noticed that on the video of Blaze's first home run. Yeah. It's like a breaking ball away or something. It was a breaking ball that he like stayed on, but it was like he almost cast it, and he just like, he has such raw power that he just like grabbed it and almost threw it. And when he squares it up, the ball jumps off his bat. Yeah. But the approach is definitely going to be the limiting factor here in the area of his game that he needs to most develop, because he's still super aggressive. One of the lowest pitches per plate appearance in the system. Doesn't see a lot of pitches, and he expands. And he's a good example of where, when we talk about chasing, doesn't necessarily equal strikeout rate. Because and Cedar Rafael is the same way. If you have good hand eye and good like feel at the plate, you can chase and not have a good approach, but not strike out also. It just means that you're making contact. Making bad contact. But it's generally bad contact that you don't want to make. So, yeah, that's something with him that we're going to have to watch. But it was, good first couple of starts for him in the field. Other than him, not a lot really going on. As I said, Tyler McDonough had 3 hits on Sunday. I still kind of like him. Short swing. He can really field multiple positions, good defensive versatility. Just got to cut down on the strikeouts and just focus on contact. But I still kind of like him a little bit. And other than that, the Sunday lineup was rough. Yeah, you got the D lineup on Sunday. Nick York didn't play at all, and might be hurt. We can't tell. He only played twice last week. Hickey can hit. Not very good catcher, but we've known that. That it was good. The pitchers were the focus. That was the main reason I went up there, was to see the pitchers, and I think that was about as good as I could have hoped for to see from the pitchers. And the way I came away was very impressed with the 2 of those guys. I think that's the most important takeaway from this series, is Dobbins and Gonzalez. So I guess a couple of things before we get to emails, Ian. First of all, this is something that happened today. Apparently, we've gotten
questions on Twitter and on the forum where the Red Sox have this money left over, apparently from not signing Tony Ruiz on the international cap market. Apparently they signed a young pitcher out of Korea who hits 95, apparently, named Chansol Lee. Report he might have gotten 300K.
I love when the stuff when this morning you sent an Instagram thing from a random page that I'd never seen before that was in Korean.
Someone else had a link to it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. I don't know where you found it, but
yeah.
And then literally less than 12 hours later, he shows up in the actual transactions log.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just thought that was very
done.
Funny. Yeah.
Yeah. They also signed someone out of Venezuela named Grider Colina. I don't know anything about him either, but this Lee kid is interesting. We'll see how that goes.
Seems like he has a big arm. Seems like he has not really any idea where it's going. But, you know, if you're telling me you can get a high school age kid who's up to 95, sign me up. You know, and as you said, they had the money left over. It's a good way to get talent in the system. We'll see what happens, but I like it. Yeah, he's interesting. It's hard to say because we just don't know anything about him. But yeah, up to 95, 96, low 90s usually good stuff, but strikes are a question mark.
For everyone and there were a surprising number of these people who were like, oh my God, they screwed up the international signing period. Well, they didn't screw up the international signing period now. So go away, please. Get off my timeline.
I'm pretty sure Tony Ruiz has been very bad for the Royals. I was just about to look
Has
it
up. He? Well, it's the DSL.
I'm I mean, who knows?
If Cespedes were bad, I would be saying don't worry about Cespedes. So
fair. He is. No, I lied. He's been good. He's hitting 275. I was thinking of someone else. He's hitting 275. So no. Should we talk about Noah Song too? Because
Noah Song, the song of Noah.
We're gonna find something out this week.
He's going to get one more rehab outing in AAA.
Yeah.
And then is going to get activated in theory or has to get activated.
Yes.
Gun to your head, Ian. What do you think happens?
They don't activate him, but he ends up on the Athletics or another team, and the Red Sox never get him back.
Correct. I think that's Athletics, Royals.
I think because the thing the Phillies have done is they've pushed it far enough down the road that the other teams that maybe were hesitant in the Rule 5 draft because they use those spots elsewhere are now out of contention and have those spots available now.
Well, that's the problem, and that's the problem with him going on waivers now versus being picked in the Rule 5 draft in December.
Yeah,
is now teams know they have to put him on the roster for 90 days. They don't have to put him on the roster for an entire season.
They'll knock it out 60 this year.
Yeah.
So
they'll knock out 60 of it this year. They'll knock out 30 of it next year, and then they'll option him, and we'll see where it goes. But
because I think it's the point is though during the Rule 5 draft, a lot of times it's literally a team will be, hey, we have one pick, one spot, and you know even if they might have liked Song, they don't have a chance at it. They're not going to take him then because they use that spot on someone else they liked more. So yeah, even though multiple teams passed on him, I don't see that happening again.
No,
what were you going to say?
No, so first the cat was screaming at me for her food. The thing to keep in mind too with Song though is what we're talking about here. Like, yeah, there's the Noah Song we saw in Lowell in 2019. He then basically didn't, as far as we know, pick up a baseball for 3 years, and now he's sitting low 90s as probably relief only at this point. Like, this is not a guy that if the Red Sox got back, I would rank.
No, I'd rank him, but he wouldn't be in like the top 30.
I don't know if I would. Let's see what the stuff is when he comes back.
We rank. He would at worst he's going to be like an org reliever, and there's more upside than that. If AJ Polity's ranked, Noah Song is getting ranked. I think that's crazy to say you wouldn't rank him.
I wouldn't be automatic to rank him.
I think
he probably gets ranked, but
he would be 40 to 45 for me.
He is. How old is Noah Song at this point?
26, 25. I mean, Joe Jakes is 47. He's 28. So I don't think age is good. Yeah,
he's 47 years old.
No, he's 28 and he's 47th in the rankings.
Okay. Oh, right.
So
okay.
I disagree strongly with that because I look at guys like Joe Jakes, AJ Politi, Theo Denlinger, CJ Liu. They're all relievers. They're all probably org relievers. At worst case, Song's going to be an org reliever at this point.
Yeah, I guess he goes in that group.
He's getting ranked in the 40 to 40s, around 40. no doubt in my mind.
But I guess, I mean, here's the point, right? Like if someone were playing games, keep it, like if the Orioles had played games to keep AJ Politi away, people wouldn't be up in arms about AJ Politi. Like that's the type of like, I'm just saying this isn't a guy that's going to jump back into the top 10 or 20 or 30
No.
or 40.
I think though what it is it's there's the hope that he will regain in his form that he showed 3 years ago,
which is so
but
unlikely.
it's hard. Like how many guys walk away from the game for 3 to 4 years and then come back with the same stuff? It very rarely, if ever, has happened. So yeah, he's a different pitcher now. Maybe it comes back, maybe it doesn't, but I still don't blame the Red Sox for what they did, and I don't blame the Phillies either. It was an easy. It doesn't cost them anything, and they're finally going to have to make a decision now, and we'll see what they do. And for all the discussion about it, they might not even keep him. He might never throw a game for the Phillies.
Right.
So
right.
yeah.
They interviewed. Why can I not think of their manager?
Rob Thompson.
Thank you. Yeah, they interviewed him about it the other night, and he was just very non-committal. He was just like, I don't know, we'll see. Like,
I personally think if you're the Phillies, it's malpractice if you bring him onto your roster
it's
now.
Nuts
because it would be different if you didn't have to have the equal number of hitters and pitchers. Like if you could swap to 14 pitchers and 12 hitters,
sure,
fine, you can hide him. But if you're a team that is trying to compete and you're going 13-13 and you're carrying a guy who you can only ever throw in blowouts because he's going to throw 90 to 92, and that's not. You can't do that if you're trying to compete. But on the flip side, if you're a team like the A's, the Rockies, someone like that, you definitely can keep that guy. So that's why I just think it's unlikely the Red Sox ever get him back.
Phillies did lose tonight. They're half a game back of Miami and the Giants for the final wild card spot. Full game back of Arizona for the second one. Yeah, that NL wild card is a dogfight, dude. Between the Reds, Diamondbacks, Marlins, Giants, Phillies.
Both the NL and AL wild cards have a lot of potential, it seems.
Yeah. All right, shall we go to emails? Again, you can hit us up on the email machine at podcast at soxprospects.com. Podcast at soxprospects.com. Our first email is from Brody from Canada, who says, I was wondering, after all the work and effort you guys put in to cover all the minor leagues, plus draft coverage and everything else, do you guys still get to enjoy watching Red Sox games, or has the success/failures of the major league team just become a part of the minor league grind? A good question, Ian, an off-field question, I guess I would call it. How about you? What do you think? Do you still enjoy watching Red Sox games, or has it become part of the grind?
I like watching baseball, so I'll still watch it.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, like, am I going to sit here and tell you I watch every single game every single night? No, but watching games is still fun, man. Like,
it's baseball after all. So yeah, I still enjoy watching
and getting out to the park too, man. Like getting out to the park is just fun. I like getting out to games and watching games. Like that's just that's going the fun part.
The games is the best part to me.
That is the fun part. Our next question is from Joseph, who says, do you think the Red Sox will find a way to spend all their international signing money this year? Rewind about 5 minutes, Joe. Yes, they will. Next email is from Tim, who says, Chris Nee and Shane Drohan's helium move up the rankings this spring was a welcome, hopeful sight with his increased velocity and success at Portland. But the success has not been sustained following his promotion to Worcester. More than once, your podcasts have alluded to his stuff, quote, backing up, end quote, with decreased velocity and a change to the shape of his breaking stuff, but with no further discussion. Don't know I agree with that, but anyway, we can explain. He's well under his innings he threw last year, so it feels too early to be worn down. I would think it's unlikely to be an injury, which would cause a 3 to 4 mile per hour drop in velocity because he keeps taking his turn. I also find it hard to fathom that the development staff in Worcester would change his mechanics after such early success. Do you have any insight into why he doesn't seem to be the same guy, or is he simply an inability to sustain the same mechanics from earlier? Thanks, Tim.
Well, he's not losing 3 to 4 miles an hour.
Yeah, I was going to say that's not a thing.
The thing it's the difference is, it's going 92 to 93 versus 91 to 92 or 90 to 92. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's not a massive decrease in fastball. It's just a little bit of the quality, and the command isn't the same either. With the breaking ball, I don't have an answer for you. It's not a mechanical thing. It's just the shape has changed. I don't know why, but he's went from throwing a high 80s cutter to a low 80s slider. And I don't think the slider's as good. So I don't know why they would do that. I don't have an answer for you, but yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for this month. Again, podcast at soxprospects.com. Hit us up. And with that, Ian, I think we're going to go ahead and outro. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate your support. Again, the cat is very angry scratching. Again, the Sox Prospects donation drive is on soxprospects.com/donate, patreon.com/soxprospects. Hit us up. We appreciate your support. If you can give any amount, not going to, we don't want to put things behind a paywall, but, this support does allow us to do what we do, allows us to pay for things on the back end, pay for things on the front end, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you all for your support. And as always, we want to thank our $5 level Patreon supporters. This month, or this episode, we want to thank, first of all, our newest $5 level Patreon supporter, Alfred Mamlet. And we want to thank our next group of $5 supporters, which is Mike Kawano, Chris Bollier, Curtis Waltman, Michael Stewart, Caleb Farron, John Kane, Jason Stoneburner, Jason Parker, Mike Granger, and Mike McNyosa. Maybe not related to Mike McNeil. I'm sure he's not. But anyway, thank you all for your support. We appreciate it. Also, find out if you can follow us on Twitter at Sox Prospects is the website on Twitter and Instagram, or X. I don't know what we're doing now with Twitter, but we're on there. You can follow Ian on Twitter or X at Ian Kundle. You can follow me at SP Chris Hatfield. You can follow me on Instagram as well, though there's not a whole lot there right now.
Follow Sox Prospects on Instagram. I've been putting up some video from Portland on there. Sweet.
Yes.
And also, you can follow me on Blue Sky at Ian Kundle. I don't know what the other parts after it are, but I'm on Blue Sky.
Yeah, look, if one of these things blows up and becomes the thing we're all moving to from Twitter, we'll be on there too. So yeah, just keep your eardrums here. We'll tell you how to follow us. Yeah. So excellent. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. For Ian, I'm Chris. We'll be back in your eardrums soon.